downside of having a new computer is that I gotta use the crappy camera built into it. So apologies for that. Anyway, countdown, begin. I don't know. Video games have changed quite a bit from the days of arcades, haven't they? We went from virtual ping pong and a pizza eating dots to intense survival action and morality choices. And with those new additions came a greater focus on story and characters. I know everyone's been talking about the story versus gameplay war. Ask my friend Bradley. What a loser he is. But with changing times in gaming comes changes in how games portray the people inside them. They went from mostly silent protagonists to depressing, entertaining, and really interesting fictional people. So today I'm counting down my top 10 favorite video game characters. The same rules for every other countdown apply here, so without further ado, let's begin. To start off this list, we have everyone's favorite marshmallow, Kirby. While I haven't played every Kirby game, I've played enough to put him on this list. So what's he like? Kirby is a cute little round thing who's not very bright. You could usually just find him either lounging around or eating, and that's what Kirby does best, eating. His gameplay style involves him sucking up enemies and getting their abilities, like breathing fire or shooting arrows. Each game Kirby's in adds a new gimmick that honestly really works in my opinion. In Return to Dreamland, it was the many super abilities. In Triple Deluxe, it was the Hypernova Fruit, and in the most recent installment, Planet Robobot, it was the Epic Robobot Armor. Whenever Dreamland or whatever world Kirby's in is in danger, you can count on him to save the day. Plus, he's just adorable, but I think everyone knows that at this point. The Mario series has been known for the most complicated characters in video game history. The three obvious exceptions to this are Fawful from Mario & Luigi, Dimentio from Super Paper Mario, and of course Rosalina from Super Mario Galaxy, who I've picked for this segment. What is it about people that attract them to Rosalina? Well, let me try to explain. But before I explain what Rosalina is, I need to explain what she does. Rosalina is the caretaker for the Comet Observatory, the home of the Lumas and the hub world of the game. She helps you travel to many galaxies to stop Bowser, as he was preventing her from traveling throughout the universe. Then there's her character. Rosalina acts as a mother to all the Lumas aboard the observatory. She cooks food for them and even reads them bedtime stories. And in those bedtime stories, we learn about Rosalina's backstory. When she was little, she found a mushroom spaceship with a Luma inside. The Luma said that he was waiting for his mother to come find him on a comet, and Rosalina agrees to help him out. After a while of searching, the two decide to go into space and truly find the Luma's mother. Eventually, more Lumas come into the mix, and Rosalina comes to the heartbreaking conclusion that they'll never truly find the Luma's mother. She also sadly reveals that she'll never find her mother either, as she reveals in this story she's been dead for a long time. Rosalina then decides to act as a mother not to just one Luma, but to all the Lumas she meets. What I really like about Rosalina are her backstory and personality. I already talked about how depressing and heartwarming her past is, but I also like how they handle her character design. Not just on the outside, but on the inside as well, though the outside is pretty nice too. Whenever I think of Rosalina, the first thing I think is beautiful. There's a reason she got into games like Mario Kart and Super Smash Bros. How about we change things up a bit and talk about a game that came out this year? That game would be Song of the Deep. I've heard a lot of mixed reception on this game. Personally, I really like it. Does that mean it's perfect? Well, no, the story has problems, which I'll bring up in this segment, but besides that, let's talk about how awesome the main character Marin is. Some of you may think it's a weird choice for me to put Marin on here as well. She barely talks. But just because a character is mostly silent, that doesn't mean she's a terrible character, and Marin certainly isn't that. The story of Song of the Deep is that Marin's father is a sailor. One day her father goes missing out at sea, so Marin builds a submarine to help her find her dad. If you're questioning this game's suspension of disbelief, just remind yourself that you're probably not game theory. The submarine she built is pretty cool by itself, as it can fire torpedoes, grapple onto things, and jet boost. But that doesn't mean Marin needs the submarine all the time. Sometimes in the game she gains the ability to venture outside the sub and explore places that she otherwise wouldn't reach with it. So that's all great, but there's one big problem with the story and Marin. And that's what happens in the final act. And yes, there will be spoilers. When Marin finds her father's boat and doesn't find him inside, she comes to the sad and tragic conclusion that her father has died. She then looks at her father's journal and reads about how he wanted to give her a good life. This was a really powerful scene, making the scene that happens later even more intolerable. After a while of more exploring, she finds her father alive. My problem with this is that it shows the game isn't willing to take risks. You know what would have been more effective? If Marin's father stayed dead so that Marin could form her own adventure and not be kept at home because her father was out. And it just makes the scene that happened before really pointless. Despite that, Marin is a brave little girl who can get the job done. So, Sonic characters. How do I describe them exactly? Well, let's say I can tolerate some while others no. Three notable exceptions to this are Blaze the Cat, Shadow the Hedgehog, and Dr. Eggman. And since I don't want to be seen as furry trash, let's talk about Mr. Robotnik. Dr. Eggman, or Robotnik, or whatever he wants us to call him, is the main villain of the Sonic the Hedgehog series. At first, his personality was limited to basically being the main villain and nothing else, and honestly had some of the worst boss design in games at that point. Nowadays, it's entirely different. He's become way smarter in trying to take over the world and definitely more entertaining. Every time this guy is on screen, whether it's in a game, a cartoon, or a comic book, he just steals the show. He's one of the rare occasions in a video game where I can see a villain as entertaining but also a big threat. I mean, he almost commits genocide on an alien race, and yet Eggman still manages to crack me up in the end. Whether it's with his robots or by himself, he truly is one of gaming's most famous villains. Okay, so for this next entry, I may be cheating a little bit, because I'm talking about a character that didn't actually originate in video games. But gosh darn it, if I didn't bring up Oswald in any way, it would be a crime against humanity. Okay, maybe not that much, but let's just talk about him. Oswald was Walt Disney's first creation even before Mickey was created. However, some complicated licensing issues happened and Oswald got thrown into Universal. And soon he was forgotten as Mickey hogged the spotlight. In Epic Mickey, if a cartoon Disney character is forgotten, their hearts are removed and they're sent to this place called Wasteland, which the wizard Yen Sid created to help those forgotten. I know what you're saying. Oh, but if they don't have a heart, how are they able to breathe? Well, remember what I said about you guys not being game theory? Remember that. Oswald now owns Wasteland, by the way. One day, Mickey finds Yen Sid's workshop where the entrance to Wasteland is and accidentally ruins everything. Not only does he create the Shadowbot, but pretty much ruins the scenery of the entire place. This also puts Oswald's lover, Hortensia, into a deep stone state. Not that kind of stone. When Mickey and Oswald finally meet each other, Oswald is not very happy about Mickey arriving, as after all, Mickey stole all of his popularity. Once Oswald realizes Mickey has a heart and therefore can leave Wasteland, he immediately wants to help him in any way he can. That's the thing I like about Oswald. He's a bit mean, sure, but he's really nice to the people of his town and a bit stubborn, honestly. I mean, this is one chance of leaving Wasteland, even though he technically can't since he doesn't have a heart. Also, he has a job to do as he needs to run Wasteland. Once Oswald learns that Mickey was the one that ruined Wasteland, he goes into a fit of rage and accidentally releases the Black. After this event, Oswald realizes he screwed up and tries to make amends by helping Mickey save the day. That's why I find Oswald such an interesting character. He's charming, tragic, and overall one of the best parts of Epic Mickey. I just wish his appearance in the sequel wasn't so disappointing, just like the game itself. If you haven't noticed, I'm really into cute characters. And to continue this cute-a-thon, we have everyone's favorite Pomeranian, Missile. Missile is the dog of Camilla and Lynn, and boy does he show it. Every chance he gets, he talks about his owner, Miss Camilla, and never stops being cute while he's at it. He's also always enthusiastic about literally everything. You first meet him when his home is being broken into by a hitman, so you need to save him and Camilla. Once you do, you tell him that he's a brave little dog who helped his owner to safety. Missile then decides to go on his own adventure, helping his owner however he can. This is probably the best and worst decision he's ever made in his life. Once he's off on his journey, he's accidentally run over by another hitman and killed. Luckily, just like Sissel, his spirit still exists. And also just like Sissel, he has cool ghost powers. Instead of just simply causing things to happen, Missile can actually switch items that look similar to each other, which can help solve tougher puzzles. Like he can switch a bullet with a hat that looks very similar to that said bullet, for example. What I really like about Missile is the twist that happens at the end of the game. And yes, there will be spoilers, as always. At the beginning of Ghost Trick, a spirit named Ray teaches you how to use your ghost powers. And throughout the entire game, the question of who that spirit is ponders you. Well, it turns out that was Missile. Let me explain. In the events leading up to this game, a character by the name of Yo-Meal gets struck by a meteorite and dies. The spirit lives on, so he plans to exact revenge on the ones who were involved in his death. One of those being Lynn and Camilla's father. In this timeline, Missile wasn't able to save Lynn and Camilla from Yo-Meal's revenge, so he goes back 10 years into the past. He eventually runs into Sissel, who Missile tries to help him get his memories back in exchange for helping Lynn and Camilla. Overall, Missile is just a brave little pup who's really cute. I may not be as much of a fan of Professor Layton as I once was, but that doesn't mean I can't respect the games. Probably the best part of these games are the stories and the characters. And that really goes for number 4 on this list, the future Luke, Clive. Clive is introduced into Unwound Future through a letter he sent to Layton. He posted as future Luke, telling Layton to come to future London so that he can help him stop future Layton. Clive is a pretty smart dude, using a lot of skills of deduction and genius. He even makes sure the Layton he meets is the real Layton. He also really knows his way around future London, the main setting of the game. After a while of investigating, Layton finally learns the truth about Clive. You see, Clive was the one that created the fake future London and was planning to use the kidnapped scientists to help him create a giant mobile fortress. And in that mobile fortress, you find that he's holding the Prime Minister, Bill Hawks, hostage. But why would Clive do this to begin with? Well, that's all explained in his backstory. Before the events of the game, Dimitri, the secondary antagonist, was building a time machine with Layton's girlfriend Claire and Bill Hawks before he became Prime Minister. Clive and his parents were living next door at the time, by the way. One day, Bill ran a test on the machine behind Dimitri's back, which caused it to explode along with the apartment building. Clive was on his way home when he saw the explosion and witnessed his parents' death. This left him as an orphan, and he was taken in by Miss Constance Dove. Later in life, Clive became a reporter so he could figure out what happened. He then learned about the time machine experiment and was thusly blinded by revenge for the death of his parents. He made a deal with Dimitri, who seeks revenge for the death of Claire and the destruction of his machine. Eventually, after Layton and the gang stop Clive in his fortress, Clive actually redeems himself. He apologizes for what he did and plans to make amends once he's released from jail. That's what I really like about Clive. He's cunning, smart, and overall just a very tragic and interesting villain.
Roadkill.
Yeah, Nathan Drake. And before anyone asks, no, I haven't played Uncharted 4 yet. So if you want me to talk about his character in that game, sorry, but no can do. Anyway, Nathan Drake is a treasure hunter, always looking for adventure. His treasure hunting started when he was around my age, when he tried to steal a ring saying it belonged to his family, the Drakes. He bumped into his soon-to-be mentor Sully during the heist, and they decided to work together on future jobs. When Nate got a little older, he bumped into the reporter Elena Fisher on a trip to find Sir Francis Drake's treasure. They soon began to fall in love, but after the game ends, they break up or something, I don't know. This reunites Drake with his supposed lover before Elena, Claire, and they try to find Marco Polo's treasure. On their journey, they bump into Elena. So now Nate has to deal with two possible love interests who both want different things, but even that doesn't break his personality. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about that. These scripts are very well written. Nathan is very charming. I guess that's the best word to describe him. Charming. He has a smart aleck attitude towards most things and can always crack a joke or a one-liner at any time. He also has good morals, even though he's a treasure hunter, aka a thief. He knows what's right, he knows the difference between good and bad, and helps those who need it. Nathan Drake has become one of the most recognizable protagonists of the last generation. I love this guy to death. I just hope his character in The Thief's End is still good. And please don't spoil it for me. You know, I've done a lot of talking this video, and honestly, I'm about to do some more since this next character takes a lot of explaining to do to justify his spot on here. Well, anyway, number 2 is Godot from Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations. Hot dang, where do I begin with this guy? Let's start with his personality. Godot is a mysterious prosecutor introduced in the third Ace Attorney game, and he's an interesting one at that. When you first meet him, he seems to have a grudge against Phoenix, calling him trite. The reason for this will be explained later. Godot is a very level-headed character, always keeping calm unless a plot twist happens. He also has an insane love for coffee. Every second he gets, he talks about how he'll finish a cup at the same time he'll convince the court that a man is guilty, and sometimes he'll even throw a cup at Phoenix when he thinks he deserves it. Also, anything he says can literally be quoted. In my world, the color red doesn't exist. The only time a lawyer can cry is when it's all over. So now that I've explained his personality, what's his past and storyline like? Well, we kind of get an answer to that in the first case, Turnabout Beginnings, in where we see a guy who kind of looks like Godot and has the same coffee addiction as him, Diego Armando. We then find out that in the final case, Bridge to the Turnabout, that Godot and Armando are one and the same. After the events of the fourth case, Diego and your mentor Mia started dating. Their relationship was brought to a halt when Armando was poisoned by Phoenix's then-girlfriend Dahlia and put into a coma. When he woke up, he found that Mia had been killed, so he was quick to blame Phoenix for it as he wasn't able to save her. Also, during the final case, we learned that Godot was the one that murdered the victim, Elise Downim, who turns out to be Maya and Mia's mother. When you finally convict him, Godot begins to break down and tell the truth about how he killed Misty Faye and blamed himself for Mia's death. In the end, Phoenix and Godot share a cup of coffee before Godot is hauled off to the slammer. Everything about Godot is awesome. His personality, his backstory, and how he redeems himself in the end. This is why he became such a fan-favorite character of the Ace Attorney series. So, we've come this far. We've seen the brave, the entertaining, the cute, and the downright awesome. My favorite character may not combine all those attributes, but this character is just so spectacular he doesn't need most of those traits. My number one favorite character in video games and one of my favorite characters in fiction is Bentley. That sounded way better on paper. Remember what I said in Top 10 Video Game Animals that Sly Cooper was my favorite video game animal? Weren't those the good old days? Anyway, my opinion has changed a lot since then, and I believe that Bentley is one of the best things about the Sly Cooper series. Bentley is the brains of the thieving trio, as Murray is the bronze and Sly is basically the field man. Bentley plans out every operation they do in advance so that they don't get hurt and know what they're supposed to be doing. He's very resourceful and really knows how to get a job done. In the first game, he was mostly a helping force, not really doing anything in the field other than a mediocre hacking mission. But in Sly 2, Bentley became way more interesting as a character, as now you can play as him. While he may be the weakest of the three playable characters, his bombs, tranquilizers, and RC helicopter make up for that. It's a real shame that at the end of it, he gets crushed by clockwork and loses the ability to walk. But honestly, he actually gained a lot more when he was forced to move in a wheelchair, as now he can jump more than twice, pickpocket guards, and use more bombs. But what I really like about Bentley is how strong he is. I mean, he himself survived being crushed and made use of his predicament, but he's also strong on the inside. When Murray blamed himself for Bentley's demise, Bentley said that it wasn't his fault and just wanted him back as a friend. He even managed to save Penelope in the pirate level with some help, of course. And in Thieves in Time, Bentley is heartbroken when he learns Penelope is the main villain in one of the levels. But you know what? He manages to pull through it all. Bentley has been through a lot in this series. He's suffered both bone-breaking and heartbreaking. But he still manages to be funny, clever, and overall just a really good guy. Let's hope that the Sly Cooper movie keeps his character the same way as always. I'm Pop Biscuit, and to balance out this entry's seriousness, here's a dank meme.